have finally arrived, and I don't know whether it necessarily looks like we expected it or whether it looks like the NBA typically expects it. But the NBA finals are here. Welcome to the Hoops Boys podcast, latest and greatest episode previewing the championship series. We will have a new champion in several years too, as our two contestants. Miami only has had one in recent memory, and they lost. And Denver, don't think they've ever actually been. So as always, your host with the most, James the Jet, America's favorite bitch ass white boy, CProc, our guest analysts, Gregors and the Shaddillac. Jet, before the fellas weigh in, let's start off with this Heat team. I am losing my mind trying to figure out why no one can beat this team. They have to just be the luckiest team. As far as now, are they gritty? Yes. Are they experienced? Yes. Do they have the veterans and the coach who's been there and knows what he's doing? The veterans to get everything done? Yes, absolutely. 10s out of 10s. But for this team to get by a dominant Bucks team with when Giannis goes down right at the right moment for Miami, our beloved Knicks, who were just a little bit too young and overwhelmed by the moment, I think, because they certainly played hard enough we couldn't close it out, and Randall was a complete flaming piece of stink. And now overcoming this Boston team, they can't get out of their own way, can't get up for the biggest games of the year, and had this historic comeback just to fall flat and completely run, I guess, not even show up in game 7 like they did in the first 2 games of the season. Why can no one figure out this, for lack of a better word, smoke and mirror franchise?
I mean, your guess is as good as mine. I feel as if, like, no matter what happens, just in this series, the Celtics series, Gabe Vincent goes down. The series gets tied. It goes to game 7, and then they blow them out basically. They just figure every team out. They make adjustments on the fly, and whatever you try to do, they take away your favorite thing to do, and then now you just got to figure out how you're going to win the game in the fashion that you don't want to win the game, and they're really good at that. This Heat team is scary. They seem like a Cinderella team. Like, everything is just going right for them. So I don't know, man. They got it. Whatever is going on over there, whatever juice they're drinking, it's working.
Shad, are they pressing the right buttons, or is it just a matter of catching all the right breaks?
I think it's definitely catching all the right breaks. If Giannis was healthy for round 1, I think they definitely lose that round 1 series. I think they were just better than the Knicks. Just with the experience that they've had over the past, few years. So I kind of expected them to beat the Knicks. I'm not throwing a shot. I'm just saying I think the Heat were just, were the favorites in that series, regardless of the seeds. And I think Boston did figure them out. They just, in game 7, Tatum got hurt, and then from there, just, snowballed into a big problem for the Boston Celtics, who, I don't know if that drained the energy out of it, because, Tatum seemed like he's been Mr. Game 7, as of lately. But they didn't seem ready to play. And it seemed like a big coaching mismatch also. Like I said, you probably have the best coach in the league in Eric Spoelstra, and maybe the worst in, Joe Mazzulla. So I feel like Joe Mazzulla, he's still trying to figure out the head coaching, situation about how to make adjustments, down the stretch. While as Eric Spoelstra, he's been pretty much through everything. Seems like he's been there, since the beginning of time with the Miami Heat, ever since, Pat Riley left. So I think they had bigger advantages in that series, but Boston was definitely more talented, and their best player, went down. Well, not went down, but was seriously, hampered, that game 7. So I think they were figure it out. If Tatum was, healthy, I think they probably would have lost that game. So It's just a matter of breaks to me. I don't think it's smoke and mirrors. I think they just got breaks, and I don't think they get these breaks in these NBA finals.
Greg, what kind of magic has been keeping Miami elevated through these three series?
I think for me, I'm at the point. I don't. Breaks happen for and against everyone. I'm giving them full credit for what happened. Let me back up and first say this is the third year out of four they've made the conference finals or the finals. So when I put that together, it's not a 1-year fluke. I think them getting the 8 seed is actually more of the surprise than anything else. I mean, with a team with Jimmy Butler and Bam, and they have decent surrounding pieces. I think all of us probably would have been surprised they got the 8 seed. I know I was. But I look at injuries and everyone else, and you know what? For a team that was challenged offensively, when they lost Hero, I'm the first one on record to say that was as big a loss as any, because that's a team who lost a shooter who didn't have him all of a sudden. So for them to lose Hero is as big as any. Honestly, for their team dynamic, I felt was as big as anyone. You have Oladipo, who he's not a superstar anymore, but a factor. At this time of year, you need experienced guards. Look what Kyle Lowry did. Had an excellent series, mostly coming off the bench. And then add in Gabe Vincent, who was huge. They miss him for 1 or 2 games and was compromised probably beyond that. So you add that. You have a great coach in Spoelstra. You have good complementary pieces. You got to give credit to Pat Riley. He builds teams the right way. They seem to buy into whatever system Spoelstra puts together. They play defense. We cannot say every game in the NBA you see guys play defense. They buy in when they want to. The Heat are all the time. And their leader, he's like a real life tough guy, Jimmy Butler. I mean that. Where a lot of people act for the camera and do it for this. Jimmy's no joke. He has more mental toughness. I remember that the end of that Bucks series. He just made play after play after play, and you could literally see the Bucks in that series were intimidated by him. They couldn't handle the ball anymore. They couldn't get the ball across half court. So I honestly think I'm of the belief. I don't think there's any smoke and mirrors here at all. I think it's a very well coached team, a very well put together team. It's not the most talented team I've ever seen by any means. I wasn't the most talented in the East, but when we talk about team oriented, I think they check all the boxes. I think it's a well deserved trip to the finals.
Yeah, the ghost of Kyle Lowry showing that he still has some blood left in him. Quick follow-up. You brought up the 8th seed. All of us, when we first previewed the playoffs right at the outset, none of us liked Atlanta. And Atlanta kind of embarrassed Miami in the play-in game. And they got the 7th seed, and Miami didn't look very good at all. And sure enough, then they wound up taking Chicago to the woodshed, and then they started going on this run. Was that a little bit of gamesmanship or just dumb luck getting the 8 instead of the 7? Because we saw what they just did to Boston, but would that have maybe not have happened if they had to play Boston right off the bat instead of in the conference final?
Well, I don't think it was gamesmanship. I don't think you mess around when it comes to, one game, one and done type of playoff situations. Do I think that they would have made this run if they got the 7th seed? Probably not, because it would have been a tougher road to, kind of get through. You had to go through Boston first, then, Philadelphia, then probably maybe Milwaukee. So you probably would have had to end up playing like the best 3 teams in the Eastern Conference, and I'm not sure if you could just go through that, gauntlet, especially if injuries, didn't happen. So injuries didn't happen for the other team. So, is it a very improbable run? Yeah, it's probably like the least likely, run that I maybe ever seen in NBA. But it's always just a matter of life in sports. One little thing changes and probably could have changed the outcome of the entire season. So I think this was probably the best road for them, the 8th seed, just how things, kind of the ball bounced. But if they got the 7th seed, I don't think they would have been here. Like I said, they would probably have to go through, 2, then 3, then, number 1.
As far as for me losing the Atlanta game, I remember watching that game. I commented, I think it was like early third quarter. I'm going to one off for this one for me. I actually remember saying to a buddy of mine, saying, I don't think I've ever seen a team miss more shots within 5 feet than the Heat that night. They couldn't hit a shot. They missed a bunch of free throws, and that happens, right? It's the NBA. We all anyone who's watched or played basketball some nights, it doesn't fall. And I'm going to one off that one for me. They couldn't make a shot that night. So they're as most of us just alluded to, they're as good as anyone on the fly at making adjustments, changes. So over a course of a series, I think the same thing would have happened. Let's say it was a 5-7 game series in Atlanta, they probably would have won in 6 or 7 or even 5. So I'm going to one off that. I think Miami was just, the right team at the right time, and they didn't have as many glaring weaknesses as others teams, and the Heat were great at exploiting the ones that others had.
We're gonna take it out west to the Western Conference final matchup between the Lakers and the Nuggets, where the series was much closer than the record showed. The Nuggets completed the sweep 4-0, but the Lakers were in every game, damn near. The Lakers were really playing, making adjustments on the defensive end, trying to make it tough on Joker. And the Nuggets, like they do in Nuggets fashion, countered their adjustments and got the Lakers up out of here. And they have a lot of rust to maybe shake off because of they've been resting for so long, and this Celtics and Heat series went 7 games. But, partner, I want to know, do you think that this is the Nuggets' chip to lose, or do the Heat have a fighting chance?
Well, it's funny, especially on the heels of the last conversation. I don't want to say they don't have a fighting chance, because I wouldn't have thought they wouldn't have had a fighting chance in 2 of the previous 3 series. But at the same time, the Nuggets are completely healthy, knock on wood. Jokic is challenging Giannis for the best player in the league. He's bringing back memories that, like, Kevin Garnett prime, if Kevin Garnett actually had a competent team around him, where he can dominate the game in 5 different ways at any given time. Really, I don't think they'll sweep them, because Miami is gritty enough to probably get 2 games. Will they go 7? I would probably say no. I think Denver's good enough to take care of them before it gets to that point. But I think 5 or 6 would be fair. I think they're going to be tough 5 games. Like, obviously 5 games is not that far off from a sweep, but I don't think it'll be like a non-competitive 5 games if that's the case. Denver really has been wire to wire, and I don't foresee them falling off the track, barring injury, and who knows? That's just Miami's, a little bit of streak of good fortune with the injuries, but unless something catastrophic happens, I think Denver is on that bullet train to immortality.
Shad, how do you feel about the Nuggets and their chance to win their first championship?
I think it's their time. I think they'll win it. Probably be a longer series than most expect. I think it probably will go 6 or 7. But I think it's Jokic's time. We're kind of putting him in the same boat as we did Giannis, 3-4 years ago. Yeah, they have so many MVPs and they have regular season success, but what have they done in the playoffs? And I think this is Jokic's time to prove that he's might be the best player in the league, and he deserves to be a Hall of Fame, maybe top 20, 25 player of all time. I just think he needs to get this first ring, and he might roll off 2 or 3. Denver Nuggets, I think they're not going to have rust when it comes to the start of the series. the reason I believe that is because they're playing in Denver, and playing in Denver is just a whole nother level with conditioning. I know the Heat culture, whatever everybody talks about, them having the most rigorous, practice and training camp schedule, but I hear Denver, it's no joke when you go up there, especially your first time in a series or just going on the road. So I expect Denver to have, the big advantage. I think maybe even probably blow Miami out just because they might be a little bit tired and, worn out from the long series that they've had. But I give Miami a puncher's chance. But if they didn't go 7 like they did with Boston, I would, maybe have it as a toss up. But I think, anytime you're coming off a 7-game series, like you're gonna peel back a little bit. And I think that, that always showed with every team in the playoffs so far. If they had a 7-game series, the round before, they pretty much lost the next round. So I'm gonna stick with that formula, and I think Denver pulls it out.
Nice. Last but not least, Greg, how do we feel about the Nuggets' chance to win a chip? Do they have any rust to shake off?
I think there's going to be a big party in the Mile High City in not too long. I think most of us, and as much as I like to dump on the Lakers or hate, I actually give the Lakers credit. Like, you look at the sweep, and you could easily see that and say, oh, they got ran off. Well, they actually didn't. I thought they actually played pretty well. Game 3 to me was the telling factor, and I'm admitting I thought the Lakers would win a game or two. Game 3 in the fourth quarter, they sent it back to LA, and I truthfully expected LA to get it to 2-1. And Jokic put on a show in the fourth quarter, scored 15 points in the fourth alone, totally took over that game. And them and Jokic in particular, I mean, as far as I'm concerned, Jokic right now is the best player on the planet. I mean, what I love about him is he's dominating games without even needing to score the ball. And now it's at the point where it's, you watch them enough. It's pick your poison. You could make a valid case. It's almost better to let Jokic score his, because if you double team him, he distributes open layups and open threes to, the rest of the squad, Murray, Porter, Caldwell Pope. I mean, these guys can all knock the 3 down. So I just think going forward, I think Denver is the best team. I think they have the best player, and I think they've peaked at exactly the right time. Malone's an excellent coach. I think that rest will only help them. I mean, if anything, maybe you'll see a little rust in game 1, but I just think the talent, the home court, the best player. I think the Heat, and it's no offense to them, I don't think the series is long. I don't think it goes more than 5, if that. But I think it's the Nuggets' time. They're just playing at such a high level right now. I think Denver is clear in a way the finals favorite, and I think they'll get it done without an issue.
To that point, there were a couple of games where the Lakers dug themselves a hole, and to their credit, like you said, they fought back and got back in it. But I mean, that's not with a team being like Denver is. You can't really afford to dig yourselves a hole.
Yeah,
they have so many weapons. That's it. I mean, you could make a case for, even Jamal Murray for parts of Jamal Murray. I don't want to say carried them because Jokic is always but Murray was unbelievable in part of the series. And again, they just have too many weapons. Like Miami, how many guys? And again, full credit, as I said, but Denver legit has 4 or 5 guys who can put up 20 plus in a game. It's just the truth. They can shoot the lights out. Miami, rightfully so, at times they went zone on Boston. They dared them to shoot at times. They've dared to the Knicks. They did it to the Knicks. It was a good game plan. They knew the Knicks. They didn't trust the Knicks shooting. Denver, you can't do that. So whatever poison you pick, and Spoelstra will do his best to come up with something. I just think there's too many answers on the other end for Denver. I think they roll.
And to that point, like the Heat, they like to play like a modified zone. And like you said, they can't do that against the Nuggets. Joker would tear them apart.
And the shooting, the outside shooting. I mean, those guys can knock them down. I remember. I feel like I don't have the number in front of me, but a couple of those playoff games, might have been game in the midst, and Denver all of a sudden is knocked down. 4 3-pointers and 4 free possessions. 3 different guys knocking them down. I think they have more weapons, and that's where I don't. Talent always usually wins out, and I think in this case, there's only so much you can game plan for.
So we've covered a little bit of the teams that have advanced and are on the verge of immortality. So let's talk about the teams that got left in their wake. First off, and I'll go to Greg first since it's your backyard. Maybe you got an ear to the ground as far as hearing some rumblings. Let's dissect this Celtics disaster that they like up and down, still managed to get to the conference finals, got to a miserable start, 0-3 hole, stormed all the way back, and then just didn't even show up in game 7. Is it time? Is it finally time? Like, has the leash kind of run out on the Celtics? Should they blow this thing up? Should they try to do some Herschel Walker style blockbuster and trade Tatum for, draft picks for the next 15 years and a 1B level star and a number 2 star, something like that, and just rework this roster entirely? Or is this something that can be fixed with the pieces that have still been there?
Very tough question because I feel like the Celtics, they have a lot of talent that's clear and present to everybody, and I think Barkley and Kendrick Perkins both said something to this point. Talent, and they have a lot of it, can only take you so far. They've played terrible basketball for a long time, so even I'm just going to go back to game 7. Yep. Tatum got hurt early. It was a huge factor. It sure was. I can't blame that. I mean, Boston lost game 5 to close out to Atlanta. It made them play longer. They lost game 1 to Philly at home. They lost the first 2. Honestly, they were not a great basketball team. If they did not, talented, yes, they did not knock down the 3. They didn't play defense. They would fall apart. They honestly raised their hands more in the first 3 games at the officials than they did playing defense. So I mean, a lot of factors at play. New coach, I don't think that helped. Even you heard rumblings through the local media up here that even some of the players in the Phillies series said, hey, we need to put our defensive lineup back in. We need Williams and Horford on the floor. I don't think that helped, but I think they are at a point where with Brown and Tatum, blow up is the wrong word. I mean, you don't get better just by subtracting, a top 20 player in the league. I do question, though, long-term viability. The two of them I'm at the point now they don't seem to be making each other better. I don't know if it's maturity out of either of them. I don't know. But it's not like there's a seamless fit with the two of them. And then you go last night where Tatum is obviously compromised, and now you have Brown. Brown was terrible last night. And I'm not putting this all on Brown, but he was terrible. I mean, he had 8 turnovers. He could have had more. I just think you're at a point now where you wonder, this is what I do. I don't know. I don't know if the ceiling's any higher now. I think the issues between them and that team in general, are either these guys your top-notch leader? Neither one of them's Jimmy Butler to me. I mean, Tatum might be more talented, but seriously, they don't exude the leadership traits that Butler does. So I think it's, again, I don't want to say let's trade Brown, let's trade Tatum, but I do think they have to take a long look this offseason for the future of the franchise, because I don't think you can just go status quo and expect to be right back there again next year. I don't see that.
What would be the one type of move, either a name that comes to your head right away or a position adjustment to try to alleviate what ailed them?
I mean, listen, there's no clear-cut answer. I mean, if you're going to make a major move, and I'm not saying they're going to, I mean, I guess if I had to keep one, I'm going to keep Tatum. I think we'd all agree the offensive upside of Tatum is second to none, pretty much. Then if you decide you're going to move Brown, I mean, and again, that's I'm not saying that's the easy answer, but who knows? I mean, is there some chance of someone like Lillard being in play? I would want someone of like I said, a Lillard, a leadership type on and off the floor. to steady that boat because it didn't seem like there was a steady captain on that ship this year. Horford used to be that, and I'm not dumping on Horford. He looks like he has lost a step, no doubt about it, especially on the defensive end. Had moments, but didn't last. Um, if anything, I would think moving Brown, if you're going to really mess it up, for another, type of bona fide super. Someone even brought up today, and I'm not saying like Trae Young. I don't think the chemistry is going to work long term with the two of them at this point. Again, that doesn't mean just get rid of them. No, but I would look to make some kind of deal like that because I don't think Brown even is. He seemed at times in the press not very happy this year. He would almost make subtle comments, kind of basically cutting on the Celtics, like how they didn't play hard, they didn't play any D. So I get the feeling Brown may be at the point in his career where he kind of wants to be the lead dog too. So maybe a move to someone like Portland. I mean, again, I don't know if the Blazers are looking to do that, but that's something that would make more sense to me. The Blazers want to go younger. Lillard going for a title. That would ideally, that type of move would, I think, work best. Better said than done, but easier said than done, excuse me.
I mean, it's kind of about time that Al Horford started to lose his wheels. He's only about 80 years old in basketball years. Shad, are you team blow up or team retool?
I'm in the minority. I say retool, status quo, keep it the same. The main reason I'm saying this is because the Boston Celtics haven't had stability in the past at least 3 years. They've had 3 different head coaches. If you fire Mazzulla, you're going to have 4 head coaches in 4 seasons. I think that plays a big part in this, kind of leadership dynamic, playmaking, whatever they have between Tatum and Brown. They got a different, head coach, coordinator, whatever you want to kind of call it, every year, like the equivalent of football. If you have a quarterback that has a different coordinator pretty much every year, different head coach, they're not going to be as talented as they seem. So I think that kind of plays a part with this Boston Celtics team as far as the chemistry, the leadership. You got to have stability. So I think you need to give Joe Mazzulla one more year, even if it's just, halfway through the year, you see, the Celtics only playing 500 ball, then you trade, Brown or Tatum, and then you fire Mazzulla or something like that. But I think you at least have to give it up to like around that trade deadline for this team. Only way I would blow it up, like I said, Greg kind of alluded to it, if you're going to get like a Damian Lillard or, a Bradley Beal or, trade him to like Toronto, Jaylen Brown to Toronto and get like Siakam or Van Fleet or, Scotty Barnes or something like that, where you're getting either a better player or somebody who has the potential to be just as good with a player and maybe a few picks. So like I said, I know I'm in the more minority. The sky is falling in Boston, but you guys got to have stability. You guys have a great core of a team. You just haven't had, anybody who, coaching wise, could, with the leadership. And, it shows on the court. So I say keep it a status quo unless you get a huge blockbuster type of deal like I just talked about.
Chad, quickly, I agree. Like, let me also say this. I was saying, if they make a move, I kind of agree with Chad. The only caveat again is, and this is where you're asking me earlier about being up here. The question I would have is just the Brown. Does he want to be here? Because there appeared times this year, like I said, he was kind of frank with the media. You could tell he's just, and whether that's at the coaching, at his role, does he want to, so I think if I'm Stevens in the front office, is Brown all in or not? And I think if not, and he's more concerned with, being the 1A, which I don't know that, but that's the question. So Shad, I don't disagree with Shad at all. I don't think this is, the sky is falling either. But, if you have a guy who's teetering on the edge of I don't want to be in anymore, that would be the concern.
James the Jet, anything to add on these mercurial Celtics?
So I have both. So I'm kind of more team retool. And I don't think they need to fire Missoula, but maybe maybe they should go get Monty Williams and put Missoula on the staff. Kind of the best of both worlds. And if they are, yeah, a little guiding hand, and if they are to blow it up, there's several players out there that could go get. I think they should try to go get Miles Turner from the Pacers, and they're also they're looking to trade that pick as well. So, maybe they could do that, get a young player and get Miles Turner. Because Robert Williams is like never healthy, and Miles Turner career highs and rebounds and blocks this year. He can stretch the floor. I think that solve a lot of issues the Celtics have.
That's so sad because Robert Williams is such a good glue guy.
Yeah.
I digress.
One last thing too.
Go ahead. I'm sorry.
Oh no, I was just gonna say the Missoula thing. What is interesting, and he severely got a coach. I don't think anyone would disagree in the series. I'm not saying, listen, he got put into a tough spot, but there's a concern there as well. If you saw him on a daily basis, not just the playoffs, he looks to be emotionally in over his head. I mean, he can't. I'm telling you, like if you watch some of the subtle press conference stuff, he reacted so personally, like terse. With the only point is, I don't really care how he responds to the media per se. If it's just that, like Belichick is notorious for that. But the problem is, he seems to be somewhat thin-skinned about that. And if he is going to be in a city like Boston, and basically have you're not playing in Kansas City, is my point. He needs to grow up on and off the court as well. He says last night, I don't think the issue is we take too many 3-pointers. I get it, Joe, but what is the solution when you don't hit 3-pointers? And if you watch the Celtics all year, here's the point. When they didn't hit threes, they were horrible. They were absolutely horrible. You need to be able to do something else. And that's where I think his immaturity. So I think that's a big question. Well, I'm not blaming him, but I don't think he helped matters either.
Right. You missed 30 of them. You got to do something different.
Just have an answer, be able to adjust the game plan. I'm not saying you go and say no 3-pointers tonight. No. But if you saw the Celtics, especially living here as much as you did, when they don't hit the 3, they became a terrible basketball team. They lost games to Houston. And I'm serious. That's the point. They didn't adjust if they couldn't hit the 3. Mentally, physically, game plan-wise. That needs to change. Because they're too talented to I don't mean losing in Game 7 at Miami. No, that of itself is not a disgrace. It's how many games they let slip that they should have never been in that position in the first place. That's the issue.
Well, we can't have a show without talking about the king, right? LeBron James. I want to know if you guys think this last playoff run is his last run to try to catch Mike as far as like rings. I know he's still like 2 off, but I feel like he had a pretty good chance to make the finals at least. And they just they announced in the press that he was playing with a ruptured tendon in his foot the whole playoffs, and he still scored 40 in an elimination game. Still looks like there's tread on the tires. But do any of you guys think that he has another chance to win another championship or more championships than one? Greg, let's start with you.
I don't want to say no chance. I feel like if they had a shot, it was this year. I felt like things kind of broke right for them towards the end of the year. I mean, even getting Memphis, who wasn't great, and that's not a cut on the Lakers. It's not, as much as I make it very clear I despise them. I think they had a great playoff. I really do. Again, I just wonder, a year older. what the injuries are everything to me. Why would I expect him? And I've said it a billion times. Anthony Davis as well. These guys just don't stay healthy, and that's not a cut on LeBron. I mean, he's up there. There's no two ways about it. NBA basketball life. That's like dog years. What do they say? I just mean he's played so much. I respect. Listen, he had a great playoff, and it's not him. It's just I don't want to say no chance, but I think they need. I think they'll need another. Who is number 3 going forward? I think that number 3, and I don't think that's determined yet. Listen, Austin Reeves. I will say. I liked Austin Reeves. I'm shocked myself. I didn't expect him to be, but again, does he stay there? Are they able to afford him? I think you need another young, one B type player over there. That if one of those guys does go down, or just the age thing's a factor with them, I think it's the odds are extremely high against them to make this run again. Not that he can't play, just too many things have to go right, I think.
Chad, how are we feeling about LeBron? His chances.
Do I think he has a chance to pass Michael? No. But I do think he has a chance to catch him. The main reason, because I think LeBron is going to play, somewhere between 2 and the maximum of 5 more seasons, just to play with his sons and to try to catch Michael. So I think, he does have a chance to get 6. And we know LeBron James is a magical GM. He'll find somebody, another superstar, Kyrie or whoever, to come and play, in LA and somehow kind of retool this roster. So, don't be surprised, by this time, the trade deadline, the Lakers look completely different. They have another, superstar, all-star caliber player, and half the roster is different than what it is when it was the beginning of the season. LeBron James, he like I said, he played excellent. He was probably the second best player in that Denver series behind Jokic. Anthony Davis, he is too very consistent. And I think, that might end up getting him traded. LeBron might get tired of, having somebody that, looks like, one of the best players in the league one day, and then the next time he looks like, a role player. So I know I'm a LeBron James homer, but I still think he has a chance to catch Mike. I don't think he'll pass him. And the main reason, just because I think the longevity, I think, LeBron James might play 25 seasons, just so he could say he's played, wouldn't that be the most seasons somebody's ever played? So he could have a record like that too. So, yeah. And playing with his son seems to be a pretty big deal too. So long as he's not a role player, coming off the bench type of player where his skills just greatly diminish, and he's only averaging 10, 12 points a game, I think he plays at least minimum 2 seasons. I think he could play up to 5 more seasons.
I think, I think to Greg's point about needing so many different things to go his way, I think because you look at this season, they retooled their roster so much, and they brought in all these pieces that worked and made them better down the stretch. And their postseason run, I thought, was very much mirroring that postseason run of the Miami Heat, where, okay, Miami catches a Bucks team with their star getting hurt. Lakers catch a team with locker room issues and leadership issues and kind of chemistry as far as who's getting the ball past the stars points. And then they similar, Miami catches a Knicks team that's not quite there yet, and Lakers catch a Warriors team that's well past being there and very much on their last legs. And then, of course, on paper, they will come into Denver and they're supposed to just run into a freaking brick wall, and they sure did. But in theory, Miami was supposed to run into a brick wall in Boston too. So I thought those are two very much mirroring circumstances. And if Miami can catch the magic and press all the right buttons, then, I mean, telling me a team with LeBron James can't. So I mean, I thought that there was a very comparable situation between the two of them, but with all that going on, and they still kind of fell flat and didn't make it there. I think it's going to be tough. Who knows what this team's going to look like next year. Shad said maybe maybe LeBron's done with Davis and he gets traded. So I don't know what this team looks like, and if the team goes through a massive rehaul, or LeBron tries to get out of there and goes chase somewhere else, who knows what he's going to land on, what kind of team, what kind of personnel is going to be around him. So there's a lot of question marks, and that of course clouds the future of playing with Bronny. So I like it. He stays and you don't know what's going on, or you leave and you really don't know what's going on. Oh, I think it would be. I think he's going to be hard pressed to even match Michael at this point, let alone pass him.
Chase, one thing too. I'm just doing a quick look. I think if I'm right, and he alluded to this in the presser after they lost. It's not at all a discredit. Even the AD is either. If I'm right, I think there's only 3 guaranteed contracts right now for next year for the Lakers. I think it's LeBron, AD, and Max Christie. There's a lot of options on the table. My only point is this: no matter how good LeBron still is, no, I mean but that does kind of build to my point. No matter how good a level he still plays at, and let's say AD as well, there's still this work this year, the chemistry, the gelling of the pieces they brought in. Credit to GM, they did a good job. There's a chance they have almost a complete new ship this year. And that too, right? There's not the continuity. So how that goes together, the Russell Westbrook thing, again, not Russell's part, but that's what if they bring in a piece that doesn't mesh well with LeBron? I think there's just too many questions. And that's another one of them for me is like, what does their roster look like? LeBron said himself, he doesn't know. It's like, yeah, who do we have under contract? And I remember he mentioned Max Christie. I was like, yeah, that's an issue if that's all you know who have. I know they'll be better than that, but point being, we really don't know what that team's going to look like.
Chase, I got a bone to pick with you. You said the Warriors are over the hill now. Weren't you guys saying like Warriors are going to win the championship or be in the finals? Now they're over the hill.
Did I say that?
I swear you guys have been saying that all season. Now all of a sudden it's a team that's over the hill.
I don't think I said that.
I didn't pick them for the finals.
Greg said it enough for all of us.
I don't know. I was hearing, Warriors, team might make the finals. Are still good. They still got like some left in the tank. Now all of a sudden they're over the hill. I don't know about that.
I don't think it's over for them though.
I think it's been over for them. They got lucky last year.
Oh, you think they got lucky?
Okay. Yeah.
Oh, here we go.
How they look this year? Same exact team.
Yeah, listen, if we're giving the Lakers credit, and I'm honestly being objective here. I remember the last time we did the podcast, it was a game 5 in LA, right? Which the Warriors are ahead till late in the game. Lakers took the lead back. They won by a possession. I said then, in my opinion, that was the series, right? Like, that was really it. That was the game that was going to decide the series, because then Golden State was going to have to win game 6, which they didn't. So I can't. I think there's serious questions as far as Clay is concerned. But but to say they're completely done, I don't know. They still have some young talent with Curry, but they weren't. My point was that series, that Golden State Lakers series, and listen, the Lakers deserved it. But it was, that was a good series. Good series.
West is elite, and it's running out of real estate for the Warriors. Not to say they can't do it, but their room for error is a lot smaller.
If you're the Warriors, do you resign Clay?
Hmm?
If you're the Warriors, do you resign Clay?
No, I wouldn't.
No, right? I wouldn't either.
I think he's still on for another. I don't think he's a free agent, is he? No.
I think so, yeah.
He's still on for another year, isn't he?
Is he?
I think Draymond's a free agent. I don't think Clay is.
Oh no, yeah, Clay's a free agent next year.
Yeah.
Next year.
Yeah. And I'm not blaming that, but let me also caveat, I'm not blaming them losing on Clay either. But I think Clay, it's physically. I mean, he's still a good player. But he's not at the level he was when they won, most of those titles. No, especially on the defensive end, doesn't have the motor anymore.
Partner, what you got? Pass Mike, match Mike, or flatline? Proverbial flatline.
I don't think he'll pass Mike, but I'm kind of leaning with Shad as far as like he has an opportunity to match him. But like y'all all said, it all depends on if he's still on the Lakers or what the Lakers do in the offseason. Because like the free agency crop this year isn't that good. There's some players at the top, but two of them are Kyrie and Russell Westbrook. Russell Westbrook ain't going back over there. So
yeah, God knows you can count on Kyrie for leadership and hanging in there through tough times and stability. For the love of Mary.
Next year would be a better year if they had money to spend, but this year it's not looking too hot. So see what happens.
Well, we got some off-season. We've talked about the on-court stuff. We've got some off-court stuff to talk about. We just brought up the Warriors a minute ago, and they're having a significant changing of the guard in their personnel, their front office personnel. Their general manager Bob Myers is stepping out of the team, and I feel like you have to actually be a Warriors fan. And Chad, keep your jokes to the side about Warriors fans. We all know. You've really got to be a tried and true Warriors fan to probably even know who Bob Myers is, because that's like as silent a mastermind as you could say. Because I don't know whether it's just the vanilla name or the fact that he's just behind the scenes doing his thing and not taking any publicity. But he leaves this team with a hell of a resume for general manager with these 4 championships, and keeping the continuity of this team in place over the last 10 years, it feels like, of the actual core nucleus of the championship teams. So we had a little bit of breaking news in the middle of one of our previous topics. Our beloved Knicks finally have parted ways with Scott Perry. I felt like that was never going to happen. I felt like he was going to. I mean, there was a time where I thought Isaiah Thomas was never going to leave. Scott Perry also kind of felt like that too. But he's gone, and I don't necessarily want to put the Knicks in this conversation because I know it's still kind of unbelievable to us, but the Knicks have not been as dysfunctional as we're used to them being. So let's put that off to the side. We do want to call it out, but let's put it off to the side for a minute. Let's play a little fantasy ownership here. Pick one dysfunctional team in the league that could use a general manager like Bob Myers to step in and right the ship. James the Jet, who you got?
My pick is the Detroit Pistons. I feel like the last couple of picks they made, they kind of fumbled, and they haven't been an overall good team, and as far as I can remember. Bob made some amazing deals with the Warriors. One of them signing, Draymond. And they need those type of players to become a better team. A self-respecting team. I know that wouldn't be his first choice, but they definitely need major help, major home improvement.
Cade Cunningham's one of Greg's favorite players.
Cade's good.
Greg, I think you're staying in a little bit of geographic spatialism here.
Yeah, well, I mean, if we look at, I think the most impressive part of what Myers did is, if you look at the core of that team that has won all these titles, not one of their stars was a top 5 pick. So, I mean, first off, yes, we know Curry's obviously amazing, wasn't top 5. There were teams that debated his size, would he hold up in the NBA? Klay Thompson went, I believe, late teens, early 20s. Draymond went second round. So the way I look at it is, if you want a guy who has whether it's his talent evaluation or has hired the right talent evaluators or listened to them and I think Myers would be the guy you'd want for a team that needs to, retool to build the ship again. So someone, a team that I looked at would be the Bulls. I mean, now there's, there's significant chatter coming out about Lonzo Ball, call it bad luck, but it is what it is, that he may never see the floor again or be a shell of himself if he does. So, I mean, if that is the case, if they have that question, I don't think this is a team that's going to get better. So, no, you have Levine, you have DeRozan, Vucevic, Patrick Williams. You have some pieces there, but I don't think if Ball is not back, I think you're going to need to, I similar to teams that need to. We're talking Boston, or they're probably going to need to move and change directions. Because by the time they'd probably be ready to contend, their best players will be either contract up or, moved on, older, etc. So I would say the Bulls would be the perfect opportunity for Myers, because that seems to be the franchise that there's going to be significant transition in.
Shad, what you got for the perfect spot for a general manager like Bob Myers to land?
Well, first off, let me say I think Bob Myers is a little bit overrated as a GM. I don't think he's drafted very well, especially recently. He's drafted people like James Wiseman when he had like LaMelo Ball. He's had Kuminga and Moody, who haven't really kind of developed into anything kind of special. So I think he's more of a wheeler and dealer, a trader, and a big free agent signing type of guy. I think would be a great GM for somebody like the Clippers, because they have two high price kind of players in Paul George and Kawhi Leonard, and they need somebody to probably just wheel him and deal him somehow, and get back some high price type of players also. The Clippers have no draft picks, so you don't have to worry about Bob Myers screwing that up somehow by picking, somebody who has some upside but never turns into anything, or was like a 5-star prospect in high school that he tends to pick up. But I would like him on the Clippers just because they don't have a GM right now. Their GM, Michael Winger, I believe, went to the Wizards. So I would bring him in for at least probably about 2 years to fix this Kawhi Leonard, Paul George situation, move them somehow, and then try to sign like a big free agent or trade for a big star. But I wouldn't expect him to kind of draft anybody, because he really hasn't done anything in the draft besides he did do Jordan Poole. He did do Draymond Green. Besides that, his draft picks have not been great at all.
So he was very much the anti-Isaiah Thomas, who could draft pretty well, but couldn't do anything else remotely competent.
Oh, don't ever bring him up with anything successful about being. I mean, please. Oh, I'm gonna get sick on the air. Listen, please, Isaiah Thomas. Oh.
No, I'll give Bob Myers credit. Like, he's a good, he's like Trader Dan, I guess.
Trader Dan.
He trades, makes some good trades, is getting players back.
Trader Dan could draft though.
Trader Dan without the draft. That's what he is.
Well, I'm gonna take a team in my current backyard now, and that's the Charlotte Hornets. This team has just been stockpiling players, young players and young talent for years, and they just can't seem to put together. I don't know whether Steve Clifford has some dirt on Michael Jordan, or they must have been best friends at some point in their early life, and he's so loyal he doesn't want to fire him. But like this team can't get it. This team never can get anything right. And then they've got so much talent. I know LaMelo's had injuries of late, but for the amount of talent that this team has amounted over the past years, both from free agent and the draft, a lot from the draft, and they still can't even sniff the play-in tournament, let alone the regular playoffs. The Charlotte is a team that is in desperate need of someone to really retool the roster and figure out what to jettison, what to trade and get back value for, what to keep and build around. So that's a team to me that seriously needs a new vision, philosophy. And of course, since with the news of the hour, what do we think? Are the Knicks someone that should pursue somebody like Bob Myers?
Yes.
I mean, I don't see why he wouldn't be on the table. And put it that way. I mean, you're going to have a change now, and for all we know, there's a lot of behind the scenes work in the NBA. Could this be part of the reason that the Knicks are going to let Perry stepping down? Could that be? Very possible. Again, nothing I or maybe you guys have heard or know, but they could have had a discussion, Rose and him, behind closed doors that, hey, I'm thinking of leaving the Warriors. What would you think? And I can't dismiss it. Put it that way.
And in the Knicks, they're probably gonna make some deals. I've been like hearing a lot of rumors that they're putting packages together with RJ to move him to try to get a player to get next to Brunson. So Bob being a player a GM that's a willing dealer could be a perfect time for him to step in and make those deals that we need to get better.
That would be fair.
I mean,
I would hate to lose like homegrown talent just because
sure.
I long for the days where the Knicks can actually do that again. But
listen, just pure pedigree. I mean, listen, it's New York. New York likes big names. I mean, who you're bringing in right now, whether you like him or not, obviously he wouldn't be Shad's choice. But on a serious note, New York, no, you get it. New York likes big names. They like winners. Well, if New York wants to take that route, who else is out there that's won all those titles? Nobody. So, of course, it has to be a possibility.
I never said I didn't like him. I just think he's getting more credit than what he really is worth. Like I said, he really didn't put together that Warriors team. Like Steph was there before he got there. Clay was there before he got there. Mark Jackson was the coach before he got there. He did hire Steve Kerr, but that team was like pretty much an already built team. Only thing he really did was, draft Draymond Green and made some trades. He didn't really like build it like people think he did.
Well, being that your aforementioned opinions on him being a wheel and dealer, is that the right type of GM for the Knicks? As opposed to someone who can pick apart the draft and homegrown talent.
Yeah, I think like what Greg was saying, and I think probably you chased as it too. Like, the Knicks need these they like these big names. So, and they have some assets. They have RJ, they have, Julius Randle, they have Mitchell Robinson, they have guys that other teams would want, as like building blocks around him, and maybe want to get rid of a disgruntled player. Hey, you never know, maybe somehow you can swing Jaylen Brown or something, with trading some of those pieces that they have. I give him credit, he's might be the best GM in the league, kind of doing that, swinging pieces to get another big piece, and they fit into what they do. So I think he'd probably be a good fit for the Knicks because they love big names and they have some great assets, and they seem like I said, been saying all season, or like at least the second half of the season, they seem to be one player away. So I think Bob Myers could probably swing something like that to, bring the next, to the next level.
How ironic would it be if the Warriors are going to have questions on whether they bring Draymond back, the Kuminga Moody fit for both of them? How ironic would it be if they wind up hiring Myers and deal for one of the kids from the Warriors? It's not impossible, actually. It's not. I mean, honestly, if you're talking RJ Barrett, like to Golden State would actually kind of make some sense, actually. It really would. Anyway, not that I'm counting on that happen, but just that would be kind of, who would know those players better than Myers? Be kind of funny. And New York likes big stories, so you never know.
Partner, what else we got off the press? Hot off the press.
Well, speaking of a big story, Nick Nurse is now the new head coach in Philly. I think this is a good pickup for Philly, but it's still questions out because we don't know which team Nick Nurse will be coaching. The verdict is still out on James Harden, whether he's going to resign or not. And the rumors are that he wanted Doc Rivers gone, so it seems like he got his wish. So let's see if he resigns.
And so did Chad.
So let's start with Shad. How do we feel about this Nick Nurse signing with Philly?
Anybody's better than Doc. I'll tell you that. You guys know I'm the biggest Doc hater, Doc Rivers hater #1.
Is this just with the order?
Shad hates Doc as much as
Wait,
Greg
I thought
hates
you said you
LeBron.
wanted them to sign him to a lifetime contract. The Clippers, back with the Clippers, no?
Yeah, right.
Bring back Doc and Chris Paul. That's all you need.
The point guard.
No, I think he's just one of those. I swear I don't know how he was voted a top 15 coach of all time. You know, the guy won 1 championship and he's been riding on the coattails of that his entire career. But Nick Nurse, I think, would be a good fit. He took a Toronto team that nobody kind of expected them to do anything, and they won a championship. You know, is it Doc Rivers light? Maybe, but, you know, only time will tell. He's still got to, you know, coach another 10, 15 years and still talk about his championship like it was the greatest thing, you know, like it was a dynasty for that to happen. But he's got, you know, the MVP in Joel Embiid. Maybe he'll have James Harden. He's going to have Tyrese Maxey. He's got some building blocks. For him, it seemed like he always had he seemed like he coached up his players, like, you know, a Fred Van Fleet or, you know, Siakam, OG Anunoby. He had these guys that maybe probably would have been nobodies in other teams, and he just, you know, had the chemistry to put them in the right places and make them better than maybe they really are. So if he could kind of bring that to Philly, with the pieces they already have, I think it's, you know, going to be a great move. I just think Philly had to do something because it seemed like the fan base was getting, you know, very frustrated. The players are, I guess, you know, wanting him out allegedly, like James Harden, and Doc Rivers has never, you know, gotten over that hump. He said in the press, oh, well, he didn't have good players and that's why he blew these leads. You just blew another one. What the hell is your excuse now? Doc needs to shut the hell up, take a year off, maybe never coach again and get into broadcasting, and ride that wave of the 2008, 2009 championship and go to goddamn ESPN or something.
Fired up. I will say the one thing about what probably helps his perceived legacy is the fact that he's been coaching for close to 30 years now. And he's had very few years that are really just doldrums bad. So at a certain point, you just amass wins, even if you're average, you know. So that helps that helps your view in terms of all-time coaches, because your wins are going to be up there if you coach that long, and you're not completely abysmal every year.
What has he ever done besides the Celtics?
A lot of mediocrity in Orlando.
A lot of losing game sevens.
Exactly.
3-1 leads. Blown. Bye-bye.
There you
Gone
go.
with the wind.
Greg, how do we feel about Nick Nurse in Toronto, Philly?
Well, before I go, I just feel like I don't feel like Shad express himself. Can you tell us how you really feel before I go, Shad?
Yeah, he can kind of take that spray painted hairline with them, that raspy voice. I don't know. What else can I think of that I don't like about Doc Rivers? You know, his
I bet his dog's not good looking either.
Playing with his meat, whatever he said in the huddle, no motivation. He would not motivate me at all. He wouldn't motivate me to walk to the corner store.
I hate when he's on the sideline and he has his hands on his knees and he bends forward. That pisses me off every time he does it. I'm glad I don't have to see that anymore.
Do you remember? Shad, I got to expand that one. So if you guys ever heard Joe Beningo on WFAN, the huge Jets fan, he'd lose his mind. And he said about Herm Edwards one time after a loss, he goes, he couldn't motivate me into a hot tub with 27 models. It's that's classic. So that's how Shad feels about Doc Rivers, apparently.
I do. And he hasn't even coached my team in a few years, but that's how I feel. Still.
Okay, well, since Chad has decided to talk a little more about it, I will say about Nurse. I think Nurse is an excellent hire. I mean, you touched on it briefly. First of all, he's a rookie head coach with Toronto. He wins his first year. Now, yes, they had Kawhi Leonard, but that's Kawhi's. He's a new member of that team. You add in the fact Fred VanVleet, undrafted. Siakam, who I saw play extensively at New Mexico State. I love this as his athleticism. I never thought for a second he would develop any bit of the offensive game that he has. He was I believe he's 27th in the year he got drafted. So Nurse has a proven track record of, some guys walk into a building and they have, every piece they ever needed and they find ways to mess it up. Kind of like what Shad would think about a certain guy named after a body of water, as we know. But I would say that Nurse is an excellent coach, because he will get the best out of the talent he has. He'll game plan, he'll adjust. I think it's a great hire. I'm sorry, being obviously a Knicks fan, that he's going to Philly, because that's a problem. I think he's a great hire. I think he's the best hire that anyone will have made this year by a lot. So I think Philly did well.
Partner, how do you feel about Nick Nurse?
Well, I don't share quite the high emotion that Chad does, but I for sure don't think it can be understated how much of a vast improvement he is over Doc Rivers. I mean, Doc Rivers is, outside of this, that peak time in Boston, is the definition of average. I mean, Orlando was 500 every year. The Clippers were very good, but look at the talent he had on the Clippers. So, I mean, the fact that they still couldn't get to a conference final is the equivalent of Orlando just being 500, not getting out of the first round. I mean, it's a different flavor ice cream, but it's still the same ice cream. I mean, I guess that's probably the most negative anyone's ever talked about ice cream in their lives, but sometimes I do that.
Rocky Road.
Rocky Road. We got any way to close this? We got another topic. Okay, just close it on this.
I feel like Shad turned into me today, going off on some tangent about something he doesn't like.
But
Doc
lastly,
Rivers is to him the way Duke is to you.
Isaiah Thomas, the Knicks. The older I get, the more things I find to add to that list. So I get it, Chad. I understand. That's why I let you talk a little more about it. The hatred is real.
He ruined the Clippers' best shot at winning a championship. They had like a 3-year window where they were, I would say, at least the top 3 team in the league, and he blew it, especially that 1 year when they blew the 3-1 lead to Houston. And if they would have beat Houston, they would have played Golden State, and they owned Golden State at that time. Not before Golden State won anything. They would have beat them, and then they would have beat LeBron in the Cavaliers year where they had nobody. No, Love and Kyrie got hurt. They would have probably swept them and won the championship that year. That pisses me off so much.
That's heartfelt.
Heart sank.
Well, do we want to talk about the luck of the Spurs?
Yeah, they're the anti-Knicks.
When the Bears sweepstakes. I don't know. I kind of saw this coming like all season. Like I knew the Spurs were going to get this first pick, and then it happened, and I'm like, I'm not surprised.
I mean, the fact, like, the only team that you could maybe say has more lottery luck than them is Orlando, just based on consistency. But Orlando never does anything with it. They get all these picks, they take all this talent, and they're still trash. The Spurs shoot to the top every time there's this all-time, one-of-a-kind phenom there, right for the picking.
Yeah, well, it's timing is everything. Listen, I was just thinking, like before, they've won the lottery 3 times that there's been a generational player as the one pick. There are some years, I'm not even trying to cut, but Anthony Bennett's the one pick. Some years there's not that guy. the 3 times they've won it are completely franchise-altering players. So, I mean, again, timing is everything. They're great at that, boy. Jeez.
As opposed to our Knicks who can lose 60-something games and we get 4.
Yeah.
We get Frank Ntilikina.
Oh,
don't get me going on this one. You want me to turn into Shad tonight too?
Yeah, go ahead.
Oh, jeez.
Tell me about Frankie cigarettes.
No, I listen. Shad is bringing the anger tonight. I'm going to stay peaceful for an evening for once.
Our 4 box is going to be a 3 boxes. It's just going to be the same person. Well, here, let's get Shad going again because he always says this is going to be Popovich's last year. It's going to be Popovich's last year. Are you going to stick to that claim?
No, it's going to make him look like a great coach again. I hate the Spurs. Like, they cheated to get David Robinson. They cheated to get Tim Duncan, and now they're cheating to get Victor Wembanyama. It seems like they'll tank for a year or two, and then somehow they get this generational prospect. I wish the best for Wembanyama, but I hate the Spurs. Like, that's probably my least favorite team of all time. Just Greg Popovich, I give him credit. He's a good coach, but I don't think he's in that GOAT category where everybody tries to put him in. I don't think if you're a GOAT, you don't have these down years, no matter who you have on as a coach, who you have as players. Your team should at least kind of be that 7th or 8th seed in the play-in game, and his teams have been the worst in the league. And it's not like they didn't have any kind of players. They traded away some of their good players, Derek White, and they had a DeMar DeRozan, people like that. So it's like, Pop, you got some talent. Why aren't you, doing as good as any of these top 15 coaches of all time have been doing? So I don't know. I think there should have been. There obviously were tanking. There should have been some type of penalty or something. All right, instead of a 14% chance, your chances are now cut in half. Just because obviously in the past 3 years you guys have done everything to just kind of lose and get rid of your assets. There's got to be a stronger, just kind of penalty when you obviously see a team is tanking. And the Spurs, they just really pissed me off. And Greg Popovich, you win again. Somehow you get a good player that's going to make you look better than you possibly are as a coach.
Just setting him off. We're just setting him off all night.
Well, gang, I guess we'll see how long Pop coaches. Will his head be in a jar?
Well, how many other coaches would have been fired for losing for 3 straight years he did?
Shad, hold on. Let me I get one thing. They made the playoffs 22 straight years, I believe. 22 straight years. And if we're going to cut on Popovich, I guarantee you that was part of a collaborative with the front office where they, that wasn't him alone saying, "Oh, let's." No, they probably sat down. He and said, "You know what? Our championship window's closed. Let's rebuild." When they traded Dejounte Murray, of course that was. So we can't put that on him. You want to get on the front office, go right ahead. But they played by the rules. And I mean, after making the playoffs 22, the Knicks haven't made the playoffs 22 years in the last 22 centuries, for the love of Mary. So my point is, I can't cut on Popovich for that. I mean, geez. It's clear the front office and him decided, all right, well, we're going to need to retool and let's tank it up.
But Greg, 4 years, they missed the playoffs 4 straight years, and you're just going to be like, "Oh, it's all right." You just get to be the head coach again.
I mean, I behind closed doors, I'm sure there was some kind of collaborative meeting about that. And, and listen, when you've done what he has done, you don't fire a guy after a year or two. I mean, it's clear as day. They were nowhere near a title contender talent wise, even when they had Derek White and Murray and, I mean, you could make the case that sure, maybe he's getting long in the tooth and he's not as into it, which I don't know that, but I can't also say they were going to win a title if they had a different coach either. They weren't that good. So
if Doc Rivers got the Clippers for Larry O'Brien's and then closed his tenure in LA with 4 abysmal seasons, would you give him a pass or would you still say get out the door?
No, I think that's with anybody. Like if you have 4 straight years of being under 500 and missing the playoffs, we're in a league where half the teams make the playoffs, you got to go. I don't care if this is football, basketball, baseball, like maybe baseball, I'll make an exception because it's just a different sport. But like just about any sport, you would have fired like the coach easily.
But Shad, you do get it though that like that may have been a collective, the front office said. I don't know this. I'm just guessing. When you've been there as long as Popovich, he's part of every decision that goes on. So I don't think I'm going to guess he's not part of this. He's not pulling this rogue element, being like, oh, I'm not going to play the best kids and hopefully lose. He's probably doing what the front office wanted, to be honest, right? They wouldn't have traded Murray otherwise. You can make arguments about other guys, but Murray's a really good player to kind of get rid of him. Well, that was, what's he going to do? But if he doesn't work out, bring in Doc Rivers. Shad, he's got another shot. It'll make you happy. Wait a minute. Let's put Rivers with the Spurs together. We'll have to have an extra box on the screen for Shad's head when it blows up when he watches Rivers coaching that team.
You got to do something different. You can't just, but keep banging your head against the wall. I'm sorry. I would take Doc Rivers over Greg Popovich at this point.
What?
For the Spurs, yes.
I thought you wouldn't take Doc Rivers off a guy that's not been alive for 20 years lately.
For the Spurs, yes. Anywhere else, no.
I think Tim Duncan is going to be that head coach in a few, though.
Somebody
hang it up. It's going to be Tim.
You
know what? Here would be a question. If he'd want to, though. Again, something I'm not. Does Tim Duncan want to do that? He seems more, just to me, his demeanor, he seems more of a behind the scenes type of guy. Not that he can't coach, of course he can, but I would wonder, does he want that type of lifestyle? That seems an aggressive lifestyle for someone like Tim. But
I could also see Timmy being like the Peyton Manning type that doesn't want to go near coaching with a 10-foot pole.
Yeah. I'd wonder the same. He has a role with the Spurs now. I forgot exactly what it is, but
yeah, he's on the bench right now.
Yeah,
I don't know in what capacity though.
Yeah.
So I got a question for you. If he misses the playoffs this season, 5 straight seasons, do you still keep him as head coach?
Depends. I don't mean that to be passive, but what are the circumstances around it, right? Does Wembanyama get hurt 20 games in like Zion? And I try. No, I'm serious. When I look at a coach, I try to judge honestly, the circumstance around a team. You can't just blanket. I'm not giving Popovich or anyone else a pass or Rivers or anything, but I do think you have to look at a certain team every year and understand the circumstances of the squad, right? I mean, you lose, not even a cut on your Clippers. How the Clippers going to win a title the last few years when Kawhi and Paul George keep going down, that type of thing. So let me see what it looks like. Did their young kids show improvement? Did they buy in? That's all part of the picture to me. I don't think it can just be a strict wins and losses. The NBA is tough, no doubt.
Yeah. Well, people, this is the end of our show. Thanks for kicking it with us. It's been a blast. Shout out to our guest experts, Shad and Greg. Your expertise is always appreciated. If you want to put in your finals picks, hit us up on our socials at both Twitter and Instagram at Hoops Boys. Drop us a line. Tell us what you think about the finals and who you think is going to win. Finals MVP pick, all that jazz. But until next time, Hoops Boys Pod. Peace.
Kobe.
There it is.